The possibility of a white president in South Africa remains a complex and unlikely scenario in the near future, given the country's historical context and political landscape. Since the end of apartheid in 1994, the African National Congress, ANC, has dominated national politics, largely due to its role in the liberation struggle and strong support from the black majority. While South Africa is a democracy where any qualified citizen can run for office, the nation's demographics and voting patterns suggest that a white candidate would struggle to gain widespread support, particularly from the black electorate, who make up the majority of the population. However, as political dynamics shift and new generations emerge, race may become a less significant factor in leadership selection. If a white candidate were to rise to prominence, they would likely need to represent a party with broad, inclusive policies that resonate with South Africans across racial and economic lines. Ultimately, while not impossible, the election of a white president would require a significant political shift driven by unity, shared national interests, and a break from historical divisions.
And the national anthem. That's why, to be honest, I have never voted, and I'm not about to, because I understood from as early as 1990 that we're going nowhere, because structurally the system, you only change a white face with a black face. You look at the history from Mandela to Ramaphosa, Zuma, all, they're taking us to imperialism. Zuma was taking us to Asia. Ramaphosa is taking us back to the West. It was a better Mandela because we're still in that transition. When Mandela came up with the RDP had that element of socialism, capitalism, with let's build them houses, schools, all these things about child grant. They came with that RDP, which is an element of socialism. But when Thabo Mbeki came, it destroyed everything. It just started gear to say, you know what, let's liberalize the economy, let's privatize everything now, it's outsourced. And that's where we started to see these billionaires coming, these rich guys. Into besingayijwayelanga yabo abantu abashela ngemali thina besazi ukuthi mawushela ngemali uyibhari thina sikhola nje thina sikhola mawushela ngemali uyibhari and mawuyibhari buyibhari dot you understand ukuthi mawuyibhari for mesigela uyibhari noma sesikhulile and now you understand your role ukuthi amari ngibhari mafe nginemali mari ngibhari yabo. That's why bathi you can sex on untrack mari iplayer moga sa mogo yabo. Sometimes you took it me out, but it's at level geseg. Marisa moch. And you knew it, but now all of a sudden, what can you say? That's what has happened.
You say you haven't voted because you realize that.
Wait, guys, let's finally have this conversation. Who do you think was the best president to ever lead us in this country? Between the one and only Thabo Mbeki, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, and Jacob Zuma? Please, guys, be honest.
The ANC is the most corrupt organization in the country.
2, inheriting its assets. Let me tell you who killed the ANC. Jacob Zuma killed the ANC. When history proper is written, Jacob Zuma will be recorded as the murderer who killed the ANC. Finished it.
But the previous episode, you said the current president, Mr. Ramaphosa, will be remembered in history as the person that presided over its funeral.
Exactly. So Jacob Zuma did the murdering, Cyril Ramaphosa did the burying. So Ramaphosa is busy burying it, and he's ensuring that this burial is peaceful. There's no chaos as the ANC is being buried. I mean, the ANC lost an election, right? Noises and so on. Ramaphosa prevailed to make sure that the ANC is buried very nicely and very quietly with dignity. It exits. So the ANC is being buried as we speak.
And before you continue, sorry to disturb you there, to come in there. Are you saying former President Jacob Zuma killed the ANC while he was president of the ANC? Or are you saying he killed it by forming EMK?
It's a very complex question you are asking. He actually stabbed it while he was in the ANC, while he was president. So that whole business of state capture, of allowing thieves from India, the Guptas, to take over the South African state, of murdering state-owned enterprises and milking the state dry, that's what finished off the ANC. But he had a bit of life. And when he was out of it, he realized, I need a hammer just to smash its head so that it dies completely. And he smashed it, and it died completely. And Ramaphosa was handed over the body to bury it.
President Ramaphosa has been a very weak president for the ANC. He's not been able first to control his own party.
Is South Africa being led by a president too weak to assert authority over his own party? Moeletsi Mbeki thinks so, and is not holding back.
He's not really controlling the ANC. He's not controlling his cabinet, which is why, ministers say all sorts of things. Gwede Mantashe says one thing, the government decides we have to do something about green energy. He says no, he's going to keep burning coal, and he's still a minister despite contradicting what the government is saying. So for me, he has been, again, coming back to that word, holding operation. He's been a holding operation. I think he sees himself as weak in the scheme of things. The ANC has its own inner circles. So he feels that he's not part of the inner circle. And so he hasn't got the muscle to enforce the ANC's own decisions, because they have to be enforced.
Is South Africa ready for a white president? For 30 years, white politicians have failed to resonate with black voters. Why? Because they refuse to accept a brutal truth. In a country where 80% of the population is black, you don't get to lead unless black South Africans want you to. And they don't, at least not yet. White politicians love to talk about policy, competence, and how the ANC has failed. But they forget about the reality of power, trust. And let's be honest, black South Africans don't trust white politicians. Why would they? The last time a white politician was in charge, they weren't citizens, they were subjects. And in 30 years of democracy, no white leader has done the work to change that perception. We are Europeans in Africa. That's a fact. We are also a political minority in a majority black country. That's also a fact. Ladies and gentlemen, if a white president ever wants to exist in South Africa, he would have to do what no white politician has ever done before. He will have to speak to black voters as equals, not as saviors, not as victims of reverse racism, and not as managers of a broken state, but as partners in a future where power is truly shared. And until that happens, the answer is no. South Africa is not ready for a white president, and that is not the fault of black people, it's our own.